Hello people, I welcome you all for the first episode of The Reason. What's the reason for this anti-Hindu Chrislamocomy narrative? What's the reason for the Supreme Court's intervention in Hindu religion and its selectivity about the other religion? What's the reason behind Narendra Modi's huge popularity after the mixed performance of this government? In order to know about all these things, we have invited our guest for the first episode. Let's welcome Mrs. Shefali Vaidya. To introduce her formally, she is a social media influencer, she is a leading columnist, she has worked with various organizations, and most of all she is known for her witty Facebook comments and her tweets. So let's welcome Shefali. Shefali, welcome. Can I call you Shefali?
Yes, please.
Okay. So let's start with the questions. I have come across a very interesting word while I was reading your works, and the word which I have never read anywhere. So the word is actually Chrislamocomy.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by Chrislamocomy? Because I saw you generally use that word while you were speaking about, or you were describing the media people, professionals.
Yeah.
So you specifically use that word Chrislamocomy regarding media professionals.
Not exactly. It is not limited just to media people. Basically, it was like I was on the lookout for a word that would describe the typical so-called quote-unquote liberal or secular person, and the people who were always attacking Hindu religion and Hindu beliefs in some form or the other. So there are a lot of them actually. So you have people who are very believers in evangelization, which are the Christians. Then you have the very hardcore the mullah mentality,
Okay.
and then you have the Marxist communist mentality. And I couldn't, each time, it basically started because Twitter had a limit of 240 words, or 280 now, 140, 280.
Okay.
But in that I couldn't mention all of these people separately.
Okay.
So I wanted a term which would encompass everybody and describe that mentality. It is not directed at a particular person, it is a mentality. And the mentality, there is another word also that I use, which is misodharmic, and I think
Okay.
that is more suited.
Okay.
Misodharmic means anybody who hates dharmic people in whatever way. So
Every
Chrislamocomy, no, dharma.
Okay.
Dharma is only, let me be very clear, dharma is not religion. Dharma reads to only Indic faiths, which is Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism and Jainism.
Okay.
So anybody who is against these four Indic faiths is a misodharmic person.
Okay.
So misodharmic and Chrislamocomy are composite terms, and they are not applicable just to the media.
Okay.
Media, because it is most obvious. Media is the one which writes about these things in your face. So that is why it is most applicable to the media. But it is not just applicable to media. There are people like that in the academia. There are people like that in Bollywood. There are people like that all around us. It is a mentality. It describes a mentality, not a person, an
Okay.
attitude.
So any person of any religion can be Chrislamocomy, you want to say?
Yeah, it is an attitude. It is an attitude that stems out from Abrahamic religions, which believe that only their way is right and everybody's way is wrong.
Okay.
And then there is the Marxist and the communist mindset, which basically again tells you that anything related to Hindu faith is wrong.
Okay.
And it is a mentality. It is that person. Chrislamocomy doesn't have to be a Christian or a Muslim or
Okay.
a communist.
Commie is fine because we can understand the conflict between communism and religion, or we are also quite aware of the communist narrative that has dominated the all the other debates. But how about Christianity and Islam?
How selective is communism in India, do you think? How many times have you seen communists in India criticizing other faiths for whatever wrongs that they have committed? How many times have you seen Marxist or communist thinkers talking about what is the havoc created by Muslim emperors when they destroyed Hindu temples?
Okay.
If you read Sitaram Goel's book, more than 47,000 Hindu temples have been destroyed, mostly by Islamic rulers. What do you hear about when the communists and the Marxists talk about them?
Okay.
What do Marxist historians say about it? Romila Thapar says that Mahmud of Ghaznavi destroyed Somnath temple not because it was a temple, but because he wanted the money. There was no religious angle to it.
Okay.
So where if you are against religion, I can understand. If you're an atheist, I'll respect you. But then you should be against all religions.
Every religion.
Yeah.
Okay.
You cannot be selective. You cannot selectively criticize only Hindu practices, only Hindu faith, only Hindu beliefs, and then they say everything is fine. See, the problem with today's Indian liberal intellectual is they are neither Indian, they are not liberal, and they are definitely not intellectuals.
Okay.
And
Could
then-
you please cite some examples?
Um,
Like they are selective in a particular tradition, let's say in Islam, they are not speaking about it, and if it is about the
Okay,
Hinduism, they
I
can
will
be-
not name anyone, but
Okay.
if you see the tweets of some leading journalists, they would say that Karwa Chauth or Vata Savitri, or take any practice for that example, any Hindu practice, they will say it is misogynist, it is patriarchal oppression, it is oppressive, repressive, you name it, and they will say it to you. But ask them to say one word against the burqa. They will say that that is the Muslim woman's prerogative, whether to wear it or not.
Okay.
And they should have the freedom to do that. Do you not see the hypocrisy in this? This hypocrisy is there, it's blinding, it's there everywhere.
Okay. So basically, you want to say everything becomes totally selective when it comes
Yes,
to Hindus.
yes,
Okay.
yes. It's absolutely selective outrage.
Okay. You said, you described what do you want to convey when you say Islamocomi. Now, if all is this true, according to you, how do you think that the Hindus should react to this kind of attitude?
See, I cannot tell every Hindu how to react. That is up to their Satsat Viveka Buddhi, up to their
Okay.
Viveka. I can only say that what I am doing, I cannot take it. I cannot take this blatant hypocrisy. So I am doing the only thing I can, which is to write and use the medium at my disposal, which is social media, to
Okay.
talk about it. And I keep pointing out fallacies, I keep pointing out blatant lies that are there in mainstream media, which are being talked about constantly, and with the old adage that if you repeat a lie 1,000 times, at least some people will think it is the truth.
Okay.
See, I'll give you an example. Just the other day, Taslima Nasreen, who is a very famous Bangladeshi writer, we all know about her. She is in India on an asylum, by the way. So she wrote an article in the print. The article is right there. The article says that all gods are male and all gods hate women anyway. That is her point of view. I am not even disputing that. But in that article, she has made a statement that there are temples in India where women are barred. And she has given example of Padmanabh Swami temple, Guruvayur temple in Kerala, Kamakhya temple in Assam, Ranakpur Jain temple, and a whole bunch of temples. Now, I have been to Ranakpur Jain temple. I have been to the Sanctum Sanctorum and worshipped there. I have been to Guruvayur temple. I have been inside and worshipped there. I have not been to Kamakhya, but I know for sure that women are allowed there. I haven't gone to Padmanabh Swami, but I know that women can go there and there is no restriction, absolutely.
Okay.
So a writer like Taslima Nasreen basically lies blatantly and gets away with it, and she makes a sweeping statement saying that temples in India have barred women. And nobody questions this. When I question
Generalization.
no, she gives this, it's factually wrong.
Okay.
Everybody knows that it's factually wrong. And when I pointed it out and I said basically she's not correct, I have been to these temples, I have prayed there, and I know for sure that women are allowed there.
Okay.
So why are you still talking about it? Now, if any writer with some integrity would have said, yeah, I messed up, factually I was wrong, I will change it, I
Admit
will
it,
apologize,
basically.
and I will admit it. Instead, she replies to me saying that, oh, I didn't know that newspapers in India also lie, and she gives me links of some other articles written by equally illiterate people.
Okay.
So, just because you use third-rate sources and you couldn't care to find out if it is not true or not, your arrogance is that you don't even admit that you are wrong. And you are brazenly going about it. You are intellectually lazy, you are incompetent, you are slovenly, you call yourself a writer, and when somebody points out your mistake, you just say, oh, but it's not my fault, it's my sources said
Sources
that.
are wrong. No, regarding sources, I can second you, because this is what I can call GIGO principle. Garbage in, garbage out principle.
Yeah.
So if you rely on false resources, the output you are going to produce is going to be absolutely not substantial, it is not going to be reliable also. So that is fine. But how do you see feminism or the growth of modern feminism in India as a woman?
I do not like questions that either start with as a woman or end as a woman.
Okay.
I see myself as a human
as a
being.
person,
I
how do
have
you
the
see?
same opinions on a topic as you have. My opinions come from my own worldview. My opinions come from my own reading. My opinions come from my own values. My gender has got nothing to do with my views. So please stop asking me what I think of something
No,
as a woman.
I asked you because feminism is of course related to womanhood. So you can always tell me how as a person do you think or do you see feminism in India?
That is a much better question.
Okay,
As a
no
person,
problem.
I definitely
No
have
problem. We
definitely
can
have
always
an
rephrase
opinion.
the question.
But as a woman, I don't have an opinion on anything. I
No
only
problem.
have
No
an
problem.
opinion as a person, which can be same as yours or which can be different. But it is my opinion as a person, not as a woman.
We are basically interested to understand and to know your understanding, your views regarding feminism. So you can tell us how do you feel about feminism, how do you see feminism, not as a woman, as a person.
See, the thing is, I have studied feminist thought. I have also done a certificate course in Western feminism. I have read every feminist thinker from Simone de Beauvoir to the later ones. But what is being peddled in India today, especially on social media, in the name of feminism, is nothing else but basically a narcissistic philosophy of hatred towards men, and I do not subscribe to it.
Okay.
I am not talking about classical feminism. When it was born out of a need to give the woman a rightful place in the society. But what is being peddled these days in India, particularly on social media, the narratives that are being created, the narratives that are being peddled, it is not feminism.
Okay.
It is just some self-narcissistic navel-gazing philosophy which basically puts men in the position of an aggressor all the time and cries victimhood day and night. I do not support that.
Okay. So the next question would be basically I wanted to ask you about the Me Too, because of course we are talking about feminism, so naturally we can also talk about Me Too. How do you see this movement? Because I do not doubt the intentions of women. I do not say that there is no substance in those cases. We of course know that there are perverts everywhere, there are sexually frustrated people, and why to speak only about Bollywood? There are these kind of people are in every field. So I am not doubting the very intention of this initiative, but don't you think that the critical question is basically how to establish the credibility in such cases? How do you see Me Too?
It's interesting that you asked me this question. When I was coming here for this interview, I was reading an article in the Medium about this exact same thing. I forget the name of the writer.
Okay.
But it's a very powerful article that makes the distinction between Me Too, the hashtag Me Too, and the second hashtag that goes with it, that's called Believe Women.
Okay.
So it says, and I agree, that Me Too as a movement is very essential, but Me Too as a movement is a people's movement. It is not just limited to women. It is
Exactly.
basically, what is it talking about? It is talking about an unequal power equation. It is talking about people who are taking undue advantage of their position, of their seniority, of their power, of their reaches to get something from their juniors. In most cases, it is obviously sex or sexual abuse or something related to that in this context.
So gender
But
could
there
be
have
anyone.
been, it could be anything. There could be men who would be asked for sexual favors. There could be men who would be asked to do compromises in other ways.
Yes.
So potentially anybody who misuses his or her power to control and subvert the person working under him or her could be a Me Too story. So Me Too is a very important movement, and I'm glad, really glad, that people are talking about it, that people are coming out with their stories, and a lot of people who were on a pedestal earlier are now falling. That is true. It is kind of like, Saddam Hussein's statue falling. So you see a lot of people like MJ Akbar, like Suhail Seth, like Vinod Dua. They're all basically getting exposed, and that's a good thing. It's a churn and it's a good thing. I'm not saying that. But Believe women is a very dangerous hashtag. It says that you should believe any woman who comes up with a story. Any woman, regardless of whether her story is credible, whether there is any proof, whether it comes from a credible source, but you have to believe it just because it is being told by a woman.
Okay.
Now
Believe it
that
because
is
she is a
something,
woman.
yeah,
Okay.
that is something I have a problem with, because it is not that women don't lie. It is not that women have, such amazing impeachable integrity that they never lie or they never want to get anybody in trouble. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen like that. There are games that men play and there are games that women play also.
Okay.
So while I fully support Me Too as a movement and people coming up and speaking their stories and exposing how their superiors basically subverted them and did all sorts of things. Believe women is a very dangerous hashtag.
Shefali, the decision given by Honorable Supreme Court regarding the Sabrimala temple, how do you see that decision as a person?
Okay. See, the decisions are already there, but I see it more in terms of all those millions of women who came out on the streets of Kerala saying that we want respect for our traditions, we do not want the traditions to change, and we don't have a problem. We are ready to wait. Ready to wait is a very important hashtag that was run by women in Kerala, saying that it's not that we are not allowed in Sabrimala, we are allowed after 50 and we are willing to wait. That is their decision, it is their choice, and
So
they are
we
the
would
believers.
wait till we get to
50.
Till we get to 50.
50. We are ready to wait. We will go to Sabrimala.
Okay.
We are believers. We'll be going there. We'll be praying there. But we are ready to wait. That was the hashtag that was run.
Okay.
Now, tell me, if the Supreme Court believes in the right of the 4 women who filed a petition, and usme se bhi 2 women backed out later saying that we didn't have full information, so that was not a very well thought out PIL on our behalf. So essentially there were 2 women who filed a petition, so you are believing in their rights. What about the feelings and rights of all those millions of women who were marching very peacefully on the streets of Kerala, saying that we want the sanctity of our temple to be kept the same?
No.
Dusri goshta, the other thing, it is not that this is the only Ayyappa temple in Kerala. Kerala has 4 Ayyappa temples where Ayyappa is worshipped in each stage of his life. So there is one where he is worshipped as a child, there is one where he is worshipped as a Naishtik Brahmachari, which is Sabrimala, there is one where he is worshipped as a Grahastha, and there is one where he is worshipped as a Vanaprastha. In all the other 3 temples, anybody can go, women of all age can go and worship. So if you really believe in Ayyappa, what stops you from going to these 3 temples? Why are you insisting to go only on this temple? Secondly, if you are really a believer, then you should actually believe that there is a living God in that murti, right? And that living God is a person like you and me. That living God has the same rights and responsibilities as you and I do. That is why I go to the temple. If I believe that the murti is just stone, why would I even bother going to a temple? I go to a temple because I genuinely believe that in a Vishnu temple, in the Vishnu murti, there is Vishnu.
Okay.
The Pran Pratishtha has been done and there is life in that murti. That is why I go to the temple. So if you want to go to the temple, then you should believe that Ayyappa is a living entity. If Ayyappa is a living entity, then you should be able to respect his desires to be there in a state of Naishtik Brahmacharya. That is what the belief is.
Okay. Now there are
If you do not know, let me complete. If you do not believe in that, if you do not believe, and if you are looking at the temple as some kind of tourist spot, then why are you even going to the temple? You tell me, out of itna sab ho gaya, the Supreme Court judgment happened, and there were 3 or 4 women who actually went to Sabrimala. Who were those women? Were they believers? One of them was called Rihanna Fatima, who is a porn star. One of them was somebody called Mary Sweetie or something. The other one was somebody called Libby. The 4th one was a communist worker called Kavita somebody. So these are the only 4 women who wanted to go to the temple. In this entire communist controlled state, you couldn't find a single believer Hindu woman who would want to go to the temple. What does it tell you?
Okay. No.
What does it tell you about the women of Kerala? What does it tell you about that they are right? And women in Kerala are very strong matriarchal women. They are not going to be cowed down. They are not going to be told what to do by their people, in the males in their family.
Okay. Now there are 2 points. You said sanctity of the temple.
Mm.
Now, how sanctity of the temple would
Mm.
be maintained if you bar women to enter the temple?
Who says women are barred from visiting the temple? It is
You
very
have
clear.
the
And I've
particular
already
age group.
answered you. Yeah, so?
Why should you have particular? No, the question is very simple.
Yeah.
Why should you have a place in India? It is a democratic country. So why should
Why do you have ladies' toilets and
No,
gents'
no, let me
toilet
s- let me
different? No, no,
complete-
no. This is a very facetious argument.
No. I'll let you complete
Why
your
do you
statement.
have only male and
I'll let
female
you complete
schools?
your statement.
Yeah.
Please let me complete my
Yeah.
statement. Why should you have a place
Mhm.
where women are barred because they are women
Mhm.
and men are allowed?
Hmm.
Why should have that kind of place?
There are
Now,
5 temples. Let me answer this.
Okay.
There are 5 temples in Kerala where only women are allowed. Women are the priests, women are the worshippers. Only women are allowed to go to the temple. Have you or anybody asked the question, why are men not allowed at that temple?
No, we should ask the question. That's what
Why
I'm saying.
should you
No.
conform?
No.
Why should you conform to the guidelines laid down by a Western paradigm? Why should you put your own traditions and your own systems? Why should you test them using a yardstick that is imported from outside? This is nothing but colonial patriarchy. What rules is the court following? What guidelines is the court following?
Do you think that the court is following colonial patriarchy?
It is colonial patriarchy that is being handed over to us in the name of equality. We have our own traditions, and it is the women in Kerala who are saying it. Who are you to question them?
No. The question is very simple. Let's take my case. Let's say I am an anti-woman person, and I would not allow. I don't want to see the face of a woman, so I would not allow any woman to enter my house. Now, in that case, you may criticize me, but I can have the right, so a woman would be not allowed. The case you are speaking about, the Ayyappa temple, it's a public place. Now, how can
It
you?
is not. It is a place meant for a temple. Is a place meant for devotees. It is not a picnic spot. It is not a garden.
No, it is a public place, but
it may be a public space, but it is still owned by the Devasthanam. But even this definition of public space is something that you are importing. It is not a public space. It is a place meant for devotees. That is why it is a temple. It is not a picnic spot. So it is not a public space.
No, I understood your perspective. It is not a picnic spot and it is a temple. What I am saying, when I say public place, I meant it comes under the purview of Supreme Court and the government of India. So
Change the rules. So change the rule. This is happening. This is happening because in your try doing this with a mosque and a church.
We would go to Waterbury. Just don't. Let's speak about this incident.
So why is it that only Hindu temples are subject to rules? Why not places of worship? All other places of worship. Why are you being so selective? There are places in Nepal or in Tamil Nadu where non-Hindus are not allowed. In certain areas, they are allowed in the outer perimeters, but they are not allowed in the inside perimeters.
We would talk about the selectivity later. What I am saying, in a public place, if a conflict arises between the Constitution or Supreme Court and your religion, what you would prefer?
It is not. It is a wrong question you are asking me. I have already answered your question point blank. That if you are a believer and you believe in the God and you believe that God is a living entity, then you should believe all the rights and everything that comes with that God. So if that God wants to stay away for whatever reason, if you are a believer, then you would naturally believe it. And I'll tell you another thing. When a woman takes advantage of the Supreme Court ruling and tries to go to the temple, she is trampling upon the religious freedom and feelings of millions of other pilgrims. Who gives her the right to do that?
No.
How can the Supreme Court, again you have not answered my question. I am asking you, how can the Supreme Court decide that the feelings of those two women who have filed a PIL in the Supreme Court is more important than the feelings and emotions of millions of women who are there in Kerala? Please answer me.
I answered your question, you did not get it. Supreme Court is giving the verdict not because of two women have petitioned, Supreme Court is giving the verdict because it is a public place. And
Supreme Court had a right to accept the PIL or not. The same court did not accept the PIL, asking for the same thing as Haji Ali Dargah. Why
that's
not?
Okay, that's what I am talking about.
So what you are talking about is the constitutional disparity. I am not saying it doesn't exist. I am telling you, that 26 to 30 articles of Indian Constitution are discriminatory towards Hindu worship places. We do not have the control of our own temples, which is why these issues arise. The court can decide on how much water do you pour on a shivling. Court can decide who goes to a temple. Court can decide at what time you can go to the temple. Court can decide whether Sri Vishnu at Tirupati Tirumala Devasthanam should be woken up by playing Suprabhatam or not. Court is doing that.
Okay.
So court is doing all of these things, but the court is not telling you, or if it is telling you, nobody is implementing that the mosque loudspeakers cannot blare out azan 5 times a day. Who is going to implement that? If you want to establish a law, if a place of worship is a public place, then ideally in a secular state, every place of worship should be a public place. Do that and then come to ask me the same question. I'll give you a different answer.
Okay. Shefali, you spoke in length about various issues. Now let's move to the issue which I am particularly interested in. You write in length substantially about politics. So let me ask you a question. How do you see BJP without Mr. Narendra Modi?
As of now, I think BJP really doesn't have a leader of such tall a stature as Narendra Modi.
Okay.
So I am a Modi fan. I'm an unabashed Modi fan. So probably I'm biased when I say that, but I do not see another leader of the same height and of the same charisma as Narendra Modi right now. So BJP without Narendra Modi would not really work right now, at least.
Okay. So, but what is the reason why Mr. Modi has achieved that kind of height in this 10 years?
We all know that he has had a proven track record. He has run a state very beautifully. And if you see his appeal from Karnataka to Assam, from north to south, from east to west, you will find that there are people who may criticize the BJP local government, who may criticize other people, but Modi ji's personal popularity nobody can
Modi,
really question. Everybody loves Modi.
Okay. How do you see Modi as a personality? Why he is being so exceptional as a personality? Which are the particular traits that you do love or
he has a very
appreciate?
strong dynamic personality. He is very sure of what he wants. His confidence is seen from his body language, from the way he behaves, from the way he speaks, the kind of idioms that he chooses, the kind of clothes he chooses to wear, the kind of gestures he does. Like when he was sworn in as a prime minister, when he entered the parliament for the first time, he actually did namaskar to the parliament building, which I don't think any prime minister has ever done before.
Okay.
He started his prime ministerial career after going to Kashi and praying at the Kashi Vishwanath temple. He's very unabashed about his being a devout Hindu. He's not defensive about it, and that matters a lot to me as a person.
Okay.
And I really like that about him. I like a lot of things about him. I like his personal integrity. I like the fact that despite being a prime minister, his family still lives a very middle class existence in Gujarat. That his mother still at this age does her own work, and she doesn't come and live with him in the official residence, but occasionally once she I think has come. He has not taken a holiday when people half his age are going for 51 days abroad and God knows what they're doing. It's amazing to see what he's working and what he's... the most telling comment on Mr. Modi was actually made by a Muslim taxi driver from East UP, and this was just after the UP results, and I was going to Bombay, and this driver was from Eastern UP somewhere,
Okay.
Jaunpur.
You met him? Okay.
I met him.
Okay.
So he was driving me, and I asked him about the UP results and what does he think, and he said कि अच्छे तो लगते नहीं हैं. He said that.
Okay.
But then he said that, but एक बात तो ज़रूर है कि वो किसी और के लिए, अपने बाल बच्चों के लिए तो काम नहीं कर रहे हैं, देश के लिए काम कर रहे हैं.
Integrity. So
Integrity, yeah.
Now these 4 years we have government under Mr. Modi's leadership. How do you see the performance of this government in these 4 years? Do you think that this government has fulfilled the expectations of people?
See, again, I am not a macro person. I cannot talk about policy. I do not understand. So if you ask me about what is the impact Mr. Modi has had on economy, on broader areas, I'm not the right person. It's not that I can't say, but I'm not the right person. Let me complete. I can only tell you about micro changes that I've seen happen, and I have seen it happen on the ground. It's like I have seen people within my own circle, every one of my service providers, be it from a newspaper guy to a milkman to the gardener, everyone, they now only get paid through their bank accounts. I do not give cash to anyone. And half of these people didn't have a bank account, even the domestic help. So after the Jan Dhan Yojana has come in, these people have all opened their bank accounts. This I have seen happen. Even now you see even everybody from Panwala to Bajiwala, they accept payments from Bheem, they expect payments from Paytm. That is a change I have seen happen on the ground. I have seen toilets being constructed, and I have travelled a lot in the tribal areas of Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, even in the south. South was always fairly better in that regard, but in these areas, even in small villages, I have seen villagers building toilets, taking pride in it, and the newer generation is definitely going to use toilets, and they are going to believe that outdoor defecation is not the right way to go. The one I have seen railway stations being cleaned up, I have seen railway authorities responding on time, I have seen highways being built. All these infrastructure changes, you can see it, I can see it, everybody can see it. So these are the changes I have seen happen. See, when I voted for this government, I wanted a non-corrupt, clean government which would actually work for the betterment of India, not for any community, not for any caste, not for any particular group. And that expectations has largely been fulfilled. One. But I also voted as a Hindu for certain Hindu issues to be taken care of. For example, Ram Mandir. For example, issues like temples being out of control of the government. So in those things, not much has been done, I admit it. But I still hope that if there is any hope of actionables in this regard, then it is only from this government. So yes, would I vote for Modi in 2019? Definitely, eyes closed, not a question about that. Whether my expectations are fulfilled 100%, I don't think any government can fulfill your expectations 100% anyway.
Shefali, you have spoke about BJP, about Modi. What do you think about Congress? How do you see Congress in the near future?
I find the whole question irrelevant. I find the whole party irrelevant.
You find Congress totally irrelevant?
Yes.
You
find the
Congress
leadership irrelevant.
You find Congress as a party irrelevant or as a thought irrelevant?
As a thought, also irrelevant. As a party, definitely irrelevant. That center of space has been ceded by the Congress. So tell me, in which state, in which position is Congress in power anyway? Congress ideology is in power anyway.
So totally irrelevant as a party, as a...
Yeah, and what Rahul Gandhi is doing these days, all this temple runs and this desire to show that he is more Hindu than most Hindus. It is a very wannabe kind of a thing.
But so, I thought as a Hindu you would love Rahul Gandhi visiting Hindu temples.
I don't want fake people visiting Hindu temples when they have no faith. That's the thing. If you genuinely believe, I'm all for genuine believers, or I'm all for proof of people suddenly turning and getting a moment of epiphany or whatever. But what I cannot understand is you change your topi depending upon which state elections are in. So that is ridiculous. That is just a dikhawa. I mean, why should I be impressed? My religion doesn't need an endorsement from Rahul Gandhi. Let me be very frank. Rahul Gandhi going to the temples is not going to make any difference to Hinduism. If at all it is going to make a difference to him, that's what he thinks. So why should I as a Hindu care? There are millions of people who visit the temples every day. Why should I care if Rahul Gandhi does it?
How do you see Rahul Gandhi as a political leader?
He's the oldest political youth icon who is still coming of age.
Shefali, I have heard you are working on a specific project regarding Goa Inquisition. So could you please tell us something about the nature of your project?
I'm actually working on a book right now. The book is about the retelling of Goan history, not just Goa Inquisition, but the Portuguese history of Goa and how the religious persecution of Hindus happened. And today, every person in Goa, whether it is a Hindu or a Christian, they have some suffered, their ancestors have suffered in some way at the hands of the Portuguese missionaries. So this is a history that I want to bring out. It will have interviews, it will have actual visiting all those places, photographs, and it will have my own retelling of what it means to me,
Okay.
Goan history.
Okay. Now you write about various issues on Facebook, and I follow all of them. But the issues I particularly like, which I developed interest, was handloom and your temple architecture. So just please tell us something about your interest in handloom.
You know, actually, politics is more of a hobby for me. It is not my all-consuming passion.
Okay.
But temples and textiles are a real passion. It is something that I have been doing for a long time now. And I also conduct trails to different weaving clusters and to go and see how the saris are being woven. And I love it because we are the only country where handloom weaving has been a tradition for almost 3000 years, and it's an unbroken tradition which is still being continued. So today if you go to Odisha and if you see the tie and dye work there, you will see that the same patterns that are being woven there even today, the same patterns you see reflected in Ajanta paintings which were done like 1300 years
Historical
ago.
consistency.
Historical consistency is there. It's the same process. It is a sector which employs the second largest number of people after agriculture in India, and more than 60% of the people who are involved in this sector are women actually. So it is a great sector. It is a green sector. It uses minimum of electricity. It uses minimum of wastage. It's a great industry in an eco-friendly way. It has given livelihood to women, to people from weaker sections of society. It's the original made in India industry actually, weaving.
Yes.
And it is really fascinating to see how it has changed over the years, and still the basic principles have remained the same. So I find it very fascinating. And temple architecture, I always loved it. Since I think I saw my first temple in Goa, the only pre-Portuguese temple that still survives, that Chamdi Surla, that's the stone temple.
Okay.
That was when I was in 6th grade or 7th grade, and even then I was completely bowled over by the architecture. So since then I started reading more. I did a diploma in Indology from institute here. I started reading more and more and started getting involved more and more. And now I've visited almost all the major temple complexes in India. And it is fascinating how evolved and how wonderful our sculptural art was.
It is basically the representation of culture, you can say.
Yes.
And
Yes.
exhibition.
Yes.
So Shefali, thank you for coming, and you spoke at length about various issues, and I cannot say that I agree with all of your statements, but I am really thankful that you have come here, you have shared your views. So thank you.
You don't have to agree with all of my views. Even I don't agree with all of my views. So that's okay.
That's the essence of being a democratic country, that we can share each other's ideas.
Absolutely.
And we can always find a place where we can
Yeah.
talk about these issues and we can agree to disagree.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for
Absolutely.
coming.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Namaskar.